Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Thursday, the 21st of October. I'm Derek Clark. I'm joined by Joshua Barrie as we look ahead to the must-win game in the Europa League tonight against Brondby. Joshua, you'll be there for us. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, very much so, Derek. We were just speaking before about the atmosphere tonight, hoping it will be the game against Lyon was slightly underwhelming, I'd say, atmosphere-wise, because of a lack of an away presence as well. So, yeah, hoping it'll be a good game, and I think everyone at Rangers really needs some sort of statement win. Whether that be just a 2-0 in the Europa League, whether it be a good performance. I don't think the scoreline has to necessarily be that emphatic, but I think performance-wise, supporters will expect a start as fast as Hearts and then the maintenance of that for longer than 45 minutes.
Absolutely. Just a reminder, folks, if you're watching us on YouTube, just to hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss a video. You get a notification every time we go live. And remember, we've got that fantastic offer on at the moment. Just £1 a month for the first 2 months for top quality journalism covering the club you love. And Joshua, you've done a piece on Brondby and what Rangers can expect. What's their sort of threats and weaknesses? What should be be looking out for?
They won the Danish Super League last year, of course, but are currently sixth. And I spoke to a journalist, a data journalist who covers Brondby, and watched a bit of them. And the general consensus seems to be that they've struggled with that transition. I think they lost over 10 players in the summer, and I think they've also went through a process of teams starting to play differently against them. The way that Casper, the journalist I spoke to, described it was that they're having to learn how to play through defences, how to create attacks in different ways. If you look at their biggest threat, probably plays into the game tonight, which is their front two. I don't know how you pronounce the striker's name. I think it's Uri, and he is in form, a quick target man. And they'll probably go 2-on-2 up with the Rangers centre backs, and I think that will be definitely the biggest area of concern. I think the coaching staff will definitely be mindful of that threat, whether that means a centre midfielder just stays a little bit deeper on the toes of the centre backs to offer a little bit of protection, or at times the fullback tucks in. Who knows? But that'll definitely be a threat. They'll play a 3-5-2 most likely. So the other threat, I guess, would be the width. We've seen after the Lyon game. Peter Bosch spoke about the instruction he gave to his players, which was basically tire Rangers out by playing the ball side to side, because they're going to overload side to side. And as we know, when Rangers' pressing game isn't at its best, that can be exposed. So that the natural width might allow itself to that nicely for Brondby quite naturally. So yeah, I don't think I think they will be a team that will be more happy for Rangers to have the ball. Definitely more so than even a Sparta Prague coming to Ibrox. And it will be interesting to see how that suits Rangers. I've went in my predicted lineups, which I know we'll get to with Alfredo Morelos, because I just think if Rangers are playing, if the other team are happy for Rangers to have a little bit more of the ball, that perhaps negates the need for as much of a threat in behind. But yeah, though, like any European tie, Derek, I think if Rangers aren't at it, they'll look like the best team in the world. If Rangers don't press well, they'll be able to pass around them. So it's so important that the Rangers start aggressively and start fast, don't allow them to be comfortable. And I think it's so important that Leon Balogun and Connor Goldson recover from a pretty poor second half, maybe in some ways, against Hearts, because they'll have a real battle against Brondby's front two.
Yeah. Steven Gerrard, of course, conducted his pre-match press conference yesterday. We touched on it in yesterday's morning briefing, but he did say that it's a must-win game. He's targeted 6 points from this double-header against Brondby. Joshua, I think 6 points. You're thinking they need to get that. I know he said he would take 4, but you want 6 points if you get any sort of realistic ambitions of getting out this group, don't you?
Yeah, and the thing is as well, Derek, is you don't want to have the last 2 games of the group stage knowing that you can't get anything. Imagine the kind of tepid atmosphere it would be if Sparta Prague come to Ibrox and there's nothing, the supporter knows nothing that can be attained. I think that's definitely something you want to avoid. Equally, going away to Lyon, if you've got nothing to play for, it's a hard game. So, the Conference League is obviously there as well, but the team will want to maintain the progress of making it into the last 16 and beyond. in the Europa League. And I think 3 points tonight is the biggest thing, because if you only get a point tonight, obviously the pressure then to go and get 3 points away in Brondby is greater. And Rangers, I think Rangers just performance-wise need to win, as I said, more than anything. So yeah, definitely a night where the expectation will be there for a win. You can see even in the comments there's a couple of 4-0s already, which is ambitious. I like the ambition.
Yeah.
I do think though that Rangers could. This isn't a Brondby have been hit a lot in terms of the players that they've lost from last season, and I think certainly that's not it's not unattainable for Rangers to go out and score a few goals. Again, if they're able to replicate the intensity off the ball, replicate the aggression with it, and certainly the signs from the weekend where that was starting to be there. I think if Sparta Prague, chance creation wise, was really poor. So it needs to be a lot better than that if they hope of getting 6 from 6 in these next 2 games.
Yeah, Douglas has got in touch. He says Lundstrom to score again tonight, 4-0 Gers. Our good friend Terry Monroe has gone for 4-0 Rangers. Alan Kelly as well going for a 2-0 result tonight. We'll give our predictions shortly, Joshua. Let's just talk about our predicted lineups, which you can look at on the Rangers Review website, folks. It's pretty much picks itself pretty much up until the front three. I think, Joshua, we picked the same sort of lineups of McGregor in goals, Tavernier, Goldson, Balogun, Barisic across at the back, and the midfield comprising, of course, Glenn Kamara out suspended, which is ludicrous for me, but Davis and Lundstrom in there alongside Aribo. Now you've went with Ruth, Morelos and Hadji. I've elected to go with Scott Wright as opposed to Kemar Roof. Could you see Steven Gerrard going with the pace of Wright tonight?
Yeah, and I see Robert's comment just before quickly, Derek, while it's on my mind as well. Stevie Clifford's excellent piece on John Lundstrom and the Rangers supporters on the site today as well. Four Lads Had a Dream columnist. So do go check that out because I think it's very applicable to the stage of the season at the moment. Yeah, well, I agree with Robert, and Derek, that's something I kind of reference a lot about the need for pace in the front line, the need to have the threat of around through or short, around through or over, sorry, in a front three. But if Brondby do sit deep, I just think that negates the need for it a little bit, and I don't think Scott Wright's end product's been good enough. And as Stevie references in his column today, I think that he needs time, and only 2 months ago he was the most exciting thing in Govan, and now a couple of poor 45 minutes, and obviously he had COVID as well. So, but yeah, I think Gerrard said all 3 of his number 9s will be involved throughout the 90 minutes in the press conference. To me, that sounds like 2 of them are going to start, and maybe he does start Sakala, but I just think Roof. Roof's one of Rangers' best players, and you know what he's going to give you 9 times out of 10. Morelos, I think the manager will stick by him because I think number 1 he has to, and number 2 he knows how good he can be when he's back at his best, and I think probably the way he's going to get him back at his best is by trusting him. Hadji again has to start for me just because of the impact he's made in recent weeks. Again, he's a player who I think, regardless of how the team are playing, he's going to give you good output. Whereas I think other players maybe couldn't argue that case. So yeah, that's for me. Either Roof and Morelos and Hadji in behind the same front 3 across front. I mean, we also spoke yesterday, Derek, about Joe Aribo in the front line. I thought he was excellent and gets Sparta Prague away. He didn't slow the game in the front 3, which sometimes he does. So maybe Gerrard will go for that. And listen, it is likely that he'll want the pace from somewhere. Maybe that means that Bassi comes in at left back, or Patterson plays, so that they've got the kind of line breaking pace. Depends how high Brondby sit. So it's all these things. I think the thing is, Rangers definitely have a lot of options, a lot of weapons to break down this team. They'll just need to be mindful in the defensive transition as well of the threat that Brondby front 2 can pose.
Yeah, Callum's very confident he's going for a 5-0 win tonight. I think that is pretty much a statement win, Joshua, that you were speaking about at the top of the programme. Yeah. Douglas says, would you play Tavernier Patterson? I don't think tonight is the game where you experiment with that combination. I think Patterson's got a shout to start the game, given Tavernier's recent form.
Yeah,
he's not been at the races. It's fair to say, and you've got a replacement there who is more than able of doing a sublime job in that position, and it's certainly something I'm sure the manager will be thinking about. Tavernier, but he's a captain, of course. He loves these big games, and it's a difficult one, isn't it? I mean, I've been banging on the door about getting Patterson more game time. Of course, we've seen an international break setting up the goal for Lyndon Dykes against the Faroe Islands when he just came on. He's such a threat going forward, and he's such a special talent, isn't he? But it's certainly something that the manager will have to mull over, I'd imagine.
Well, and we spoke about, I think since July, we've been speaking about playing Tav and Patterson in the same team. I think the conversation's kind of dulled down because nothing apart from 20 minutes in pre-season where Rangers went to a 4-1-4-1, nothing's materialised. But there's stuff on the site about it, of course. But it just seems now a little bit unrealistic almost, especially the comments of Gerrard about, we need to lessen Tavernier's loads. If Rangers play 60 games this season, you're probably looking at 40 games for Tavernier, 20 for Patterson. It's a hard one, Derek, because I do still think that you could fit them both into the same team. I think if you look at the way that the top teams manage to rotate what they do with their best players. If you look at, for example, Trent Alexander-Arnold and that, and he's obviously an elite player, but copying the template. Look at him in the Atletico Madrid game, and how tight he was playing to the pitch, and how wide Salah was playing at points. The variation, the one element of variation I think Rangers often lack is with their fullbacks. I think often it's too easy to mark them out or to negate their threat because you know what they're going to try and do. I think sometimes if you had Tavernier and Patterson in the same team, you don't need to have a huge structural change, but we know how good Patterson is one-on-one. Arguably in terms of directness, arguably up there with Kent, I'd say, in terms of who you want running at a player to get to the byline and that kind of old-fashioned winger stage. But also that would allow Tavernier to play in field, to take up different positions, and then again, in the same way that you can see how effective the top players can be from that, playing a little bit closer to the goal. You think where De Bruyne has made his name crossing from. It's not. There's no rules against it. There's no rules against fullbacks coming inside to vary play, to give the opposition a different thing to think about. So it's something that I really think Rangers need to develop anyway. And there's few things in this tactical setup where you can go, do you know what? I strongly disagree with that because I think that it's so fine-tuned, but it's also so well developed. The coaching staff have done a remarkable job, I think, to imprint a philosophy that's worked so well and got so many good results in Europe. But I do think you look at the variation of fullbacks and think often that makes Rangers a little bit too easy to break down. Makes it harder for Rangers to break teams down because it's quite one-dimensional at points, the movement of the fullbacks. I'd like to see that varied a bit more. But maybe that's something that will come in the winter break, Derek. Maybe it's something that won't. I certainly think there's no harm even in trying it out in a cup game.
Yeah, just touching on Patterson, reports yesterday, the Daily Mail claim that Everton are set to step up their interest in him in January, and talk of a £10 million bid could be coming Rangers' way. So it'll be interesting to see what materialises come January. The game then, the prediction time before we talk about Alfredo Morelos is gave an interview in his homeland. What's your thoughts tonight then, Joshua? What's it going to end up?
I'm always terrible with these, Derek, and my mind always goes back to me. I think I said Rangers 3-0, so but it's squeezed all the optimism out of me from a prediction point of view. I would say 2-0. I think that this is a game Rangers have to win. I think you look at the signs from the weekend; they're pretty positive. The noises coming out of the press conference yesterday, but as I say, the proof in the performance on Saturday was one with more aggression and intensity. So I think 2-0. Hopefully, this really kickstarts Rangers' European campaign. What about yourself?
Yeah, I think they'll just edge it, but I think it'll be a lot closer. I'm going with a 2-1 tonight. It's must win, as you say. I think they'll get the job done, but I don't think Brondby will be any pushovers. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's look at some other news affecting Rangers. Striker Alfredo Morelos has said that his relationship with the club supporters makes him want to remain at Ibrox for years to come. Now, this is the first time we've really heard the Colombian really say something like this. We've heard before about his desire to play in England and in the top leagues, but he's given an interview, and you can check it out on the there's a link on the Rangers Review site, folks. Go and check it out. It's a YouTube video, although I think you'll need to brush up on your Colombian or your Spanish to understand what Alfredo's saying. But he says here, Rangers fans are loyal fans who support us everywhere we play. That feeling of knowing fans travel to other countries far away from Glasgow is wonderful. I feel that unconditional support. They love me a lot. They cheer my name at every game in every stadium. As a player, that motivates me to keep working, keep playing well, and to want to stay playing there for years to come. What do you make of these comments, Joshua?
I mean, do we know if this interview is taking place this week, or if it's from a wee while ago, or is it not clear? Because I can't tell if this is, maybe from the last international break. Not that it matters, but it's just interesting timing, I guess, because of obviously the noises from.
It was posted, like I say, on his foundation YouTube channel on October the 17th, so just a few days ago.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the frustration with Morelos probably recently and he didn't have a great game, as we know, on Saturday, but I think there is probably this feeling that with elements of the support that this is going to be his last season, and maybe Rangers should have sold him when they could, and maybe he's not going to get back to the levels of 2019 that looked to have earned him a move for a lot of money. I think if Alfredo Morelos was to stay for years, it would be obviously a good thing for Rangers. The thing is, because Morelos, I think for so long was almost the only, maybe a side, alongside Tavernier, was the only Rangers player really idolised in a sense. You think of his first season under Gerrard, even at points under Murty and Kashina, second season under Gerrard, where there was times where the team were so reliant on him. I have distinctive memories of him rolling Stuart Findlay to get a 1-1 draw at home with Kilmarnock, and knowing that if he didn't do that, there was no other way that Rangers were going to score. But because his role's changed, that rolling of defenders, aggression has seemed to leave his game a little bit. And it's a hard one to look at there, because you look at him in the game on Saturday, and I thought he was poor, but not just poor in a chance creation wise, but also in the terms of, I thought he slowed attacks down. I thought he gave the ball in a couple of really poor areas. But also it's Morelos, and the thing is, regardless of the frustration that he can cause, I think at times he's right. The fans do absolutely love him. I think they always will, regardless. So even if he had a poor season this season, he'd still be welcome back next season. I guess if he wants to stay for years to come, the proof will be in if he signs a new contract. It's always seemed like he doesn't want to stay for years and years. It's always appeared that maybe he wants to move to another league, but I think he's got it pretty good in Glasgow as well, I'm sure. And it's like obviously on a much lesser scale, but when a player moves from maybe a Band 2 club to a top tier club and they're not coveted the same way, I think Morelos feels like a player who does probably love that support from supporters more than the next footballer. So if that's genuine comments from Morelos, then I think I would really please the majority of the support who will want him to get back to his best, and will sing his name rapturously, I'm sure, before he scores tonight, but even more so if he does go out and put in a really good performance.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's hope he notches goal 100 this evening. Okay, Joshua, that'll do us there. Thanks to everyone getting in touch as ever. Remember to hit subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube, and also to subscribe to the Rangers Review now for that fantastic offer. It's just £1 a month, folks, for the first 2 months to support top quality journalism covering the club you love. I hope your team wins tonight, and we'll be back tomorrow morning to look over tonight's match at Ibrox.